Harihi Om Sadashivasamarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Paramananda Madhavam. Om Sishyatma Samarpan Karpanya Dosho Upahata Swabhavaha Pruchhami Tvam Dharma Sammuda Cheta Yachreyasyan Nishchitam Bruhi Tanme Shishyasteham Shadhimam Tvam Prapannam. Om. So welcome to the class, officially the first one in 2026. In 2025, on the 31st, we finished with the 42nd Shloka, and now we are going into the 43rd Shloka. The Shloka goes like this. Kamatmana svarga para janma karma phala pradam kriya vishesha bahulam bhoga Aishvarya gatim prati. In this shloka, Bhagavan is going to continue speaking about how the avipashchitaha speaks. In this shloka, Bhagavan says, Kamatmanaha. Kama Atmanaha is the way that it will come, where desirous or desire driving us, desirous of sense gratification. Then Swarga Paraha, aiming to achieve the heavenly abode. At this point, one should look at it as in the Veda, the Karma Kanda speaks in terms of several benefits. Right? In fact, it will induce desires in you. Right? And Swarga is considered to be one of the highest achievements. That Swarga Paraha, Para represents the ultimate goal, and Swargam is the heaven. Janma Karma Phala Pradam, resulting in good birth and other fruits of this world. Kriya Vishesha Bahulam, Kriya Vishesha means special activities. It could be some ceremonies, or it could be specific yajnas, and those kind of activities is what the people will be driven by. Bhogeshwarya gatim prati. Towards, gati is the objective, prati is towards the objective of bhogam, enjoyment, and Aishvaryam, wealth, luxury, and prosperity. So this becomes the primary driver for these people who try to, speak and emphasize that is what is the right thing to, as we have seen in the previous shloka. Here, Bhagavan shows why people fall a prey to such flowery speech. Okay, in the previous shloka, Bhagavan speaks of flowery speech. Yamimam pushpitam vacham pravadanti avipaschitah is the way that shloka goes. The reason why people are getting misled by people who do this flowery speech is because it is kamatmanah, those whose minds are driven by desires, which is us. So we fall a prey, we fall a victim to such flowery speech. Kamatmanah is speaking about those who have desires filled in their heart are the primary victims of those yamimam pushpitam vacham. Then Swarga Paraha, they take Swarga as the ultimate goal. Acharya clarifies here that their idea of Swarga is an extension of Bhogam. It is not a liberation. Liberation, was the moksham, what we call is not the Swarga Paraha. But our vision is limited to seeing the Swargam as the ultimate goal. Anyone who says there is nothing called Swarga, Swarga or Narak, it is all here and it is we who make it, very logical and appealing, for example. Right, so this we have come across a lot. It is you who make this place as a Swargam. Right, it is good from one point of view, but not as a paraha, as the ultimate goal. That is the point here. So they are very logical and appealing. The problem is revelation of truth is not there. The bhogam that you get is an experience which is the result of a discharge of your karma. Right? So if you have punyam, then you have a very good experience. If you have papam, then you have a bad experience. And this punyam and papam, we are at like 50%. And that gets divided. Sometimes you will be happy, sometimes you will not be happy for a very similar situation too. This truth is not revealed or even seen by them. It may seem like promoting values and that there is sense in what such person says. But remember, they are avipaschitah. It is because belief is reinforced and ability to pursue the path of truth is attacked. So you, as a victim, will lose the ability to pursue the path of truth, and your belief system will be reinforced. And we can see it in several things. Even most of the religious speaking that you see are trying to reinforce the belief, not show the path of truth. Showing the path of truth is not only difficult, Aishvarya pashyati kaschidenam, if you remember that shloka. It is not only difficult for a person to show, but also for a person to follow it and continue on that particular path is a difficult task. The perseverance come into play here. When you persevere and you go through the exercise of Shravanam, Mananam, and Nitidhyasanam, it automatically flowers, is the way we speak. But again, in tradition, we clarify saying that, hey, unfortunately, the ultimate truth is something that gets revealed by your own efforts. What the best of the Acharya can do is to show you the path, not take you to the goal. And because of that, this Ascharyavat Pashyati becomes really Ascharya. On the other hand, the Avipaschita Vak becomes even more prominent and more encouraging to listen. That is the main concept that Bhagavan is bringing here. And then he gives a small warning by telling what does such guidance lead us to? Janma karma phala pradam. Their words will only bind you into the cycle of birth and death. And within the sphere of experience, as one gains through the karma phala. So in tradition, we say that even though what they teach may not be wrong in a transactional world, they remain harmful as desire is reinforced and the viveka, the ability to discriminate, analyze, and pursue the path of truth. Not only that, the desire to even follow the path of truth or try to get the truth is going down or let down. Kriya Vishesha Bahulam. They speak of several types of sadhana. That which drives you to think, wow, there are things that I don't know. Because that is one of the main reasons why our scriptures are so many. The reason is one person, no matter how big a person that or how capable that person may be, even for Shankaracharya, he might not have read all the scriptures that has been written. And the reason is to say that this path of knowing, the material form of knowing, is endless. And there is a point where your learning should stop and your pursuit of going after the truth develops in you. The reason is, what happens when we are talking, say, for example, there is a person who is speaking about something that, say, was done in 1830, where we were kind of doing some kind of a revolt against XYZ kingdom. We don't know about it. But as soon as we hear about that particular message, the thought that I am not aware kind of prompts up in you. And that prompts you to go after the path of, oh man, I don't know this. The confidence will start falling in you. This shloka is quite important from that point of view, to say that, hey, it is endless. What we don't know is limitless. As one, very famous poet in Tamil, right, Avvaiyar says, Kattrathu kaiman alavu, means that which we have learnt is only handful. That which we have not is like this. Size of the ulagalavu is the way that she says, kalladadu ulagalavu, means it is like the entire world. Now, when you pursue the path of this knowing, it will be endless. The pursuit should then switch from knowing to applying what you know to find the truth. That shift is important. And that is reason Bhagavan says about it here. Your ignorance thus becomes your weakness. You fall prey to their inducive way of speaking. Sadhana, it could be endless rituals, special actions, unique and exciting methods, special prescriptions, anything that you take. It is going to only reinforce the ignorance that you think that you have. While the truth is, the Atma knows everything, because there is only one Atma. And the entire Prakriti, the Anatma Swarupam, is dependent on this Atma, on this Chaitanyam. So knowing that is very important, is the kind of an indirect influence as well as a warning to say that, hey, don't get stalled by these ignorance that you may face. At one point, accept it, but with what you know, that is more than enough. We don't need anything further. With what you know, pursue the path of knowledge. And again, pursuing the path of knowledge is through exercises. That is called as Jnana Yoga, Shravanam, Mananam, and Nitidhyasanam. As we say in our tradition, this exercise is for life. Even for a Jnani, all the three will become an inherent quality into that person. So keep this in mind as you pursue the path and encounter the world with so much of variety. We speak of few indicators. They are not absolute indicators. Speech, sounds, it's impressive, Vedic, authoritative, logical, promising, consoling, and pleasant to hear. When you look at all these kind of experience, it is not inducing you into action, be it in the path of finding the truth or in the path of life itself. If it is not inducing you into action, then it means it is a flowery speech. So these are all the kind of indicators. Like if I'm taking a class, I give so many Vedic references. If you're getting carried away by it, that is great, man, this is unknown. That unknown aspect, if in case it comes, then my teaching is not effective, or it is not effective to you, whichever way you put it. The real effect of teaching is that which will brighten you up, which will ignite the pursuit of finding the truth, and it will push you into further action. And that is why we use the term Kshetra Paripalana so many times. To say that, hey, in addition to the Dharma Rakshana and also mumukshu, mumukshutvam, we also have the important function of kshetra paripalana. The direction or the objective that they set in their speech, tone, and guidance is bhogam and aishvaryam. Gatim prati. Prati is towards and gati is the objective. Bhogam means that which is enjoyed. It comes from the root word called as bhuj, to experience, to consume. Bhogam refers to sensory, emotional, or psychological gratification. The physical necessity is not bhogam. Food is a bhogam when it is consumed with the intent of enjoyment. And it is not wrong. To enjoy and to be fully in it is another very important quality, as we will speak about it in the Sthita Prajna Lakshan. The term bhogam herein refers an involuntary or voluntary drive towards experiencing something: food, comfort, entertainment, praise, affection, self-validation, prestige, position, ideas, opinions, fantasies. You talk of anything. All of these are something that you are driving towards. When you drive towards getting that, that becomes the bhogam. Bhogam is not sinful. Attachment to bhogam is the trap that this class should bring to your attention. Don't see it as papam and punyam. The Chandogya Upanishad calls bhoga the anubandham, the invisible string that keeps the mind returning to the same experience, hoping it will fill a deeper emptiness. The reason why we are going after the bhogam is because we are Ananda Swarupam. The mistake that we are doing is we are expecting the Anandam to come from outside. And from outside, you don't get Anandam at all. You only get experience. And when you are attached to that experience, what happens is the discharge of papam and punyam, which gives you the experience of bhogam. Right. And because we sense that happiness getting acquired through that means, we continue going after them. That is what is hoping it will fill a deeper emptiness. So why bhoga becomes a bondage? It repeats without ever satisfying. Pleasures must be renewed. Satisfaction ends as soon as the experience ends. This leads us to dependence. It demands more intensity each time. The same pleasure no longer satisfies. The mind becomes dull and demanding. This leads us to restlessness. It consumes the mind. When bhoga becomes central, buddhi loses the clarity and becomes emotional. It narrows the perception. Everything becomes, how can I get the pleasure? Dharma, duty, and wisdom, they start fading away. So we will start missing on both the duties that we have, be it kshetra paripalana or dharma rakshana. When you are failing in these two, mumukshutvam is long lost. So the impact of bhogam is pretty severe. Need to ensure that we have the bhogam that as it comes. In fact, when we go to Sthita Prajna Lakshan, Bhagavan will say, Tat Tat Prapya Shubha Shubham. Very beautiful words. We will talk about it in Sthita Prajna Lakshana, which will come after the 55th Shloka. Right? That aspect is what the point is, that balance. So continue to think in terms of that balance. Aishvaryam. Aishvarya, that which belongs to Ishvara, power, rulership, or capability. That is what is the technical meaning of the term Aishvaryam. The Vedantic meaning is possession, control, or dominance expressed through wealth, which is artham, influence, leadership, social standing, physical strength, intellectual superiority, cultural or political power, success and achievement, fame and recognition. Right? So we have used many words here when we talk about it. When I'm saying not Vedantic as in bringing value, but bringing clarity in terms of how we see it in the Vedantic classes. But Shankaracharya very beautifully puts it in Bhajagovinda. Ma kuru dhana jana yauvanam. There are three things: dhanam, janam, and yauvanam. Dhanam is money or wealth, janam is people, and yauvanam is your strength, basically youthfulness. The downside of Aishvaryam is it strengthens the ego. This is mine. I made this happen. People should respect me. It creates fear. What if I lose it? Fear of loss is worse than the desire to gain, is what we say. It creates comparison. The mind becomes competitive, insecure, judgmental. Man, I got a, so let us say we are trading in stock and I made a profit of 100 rupees. And I see that you have made a profit of 110 rupees. My pleasure of 100 rupees is gone. Man, how can he make 110 rupees is the thought that comes into our mind. Right? That is the another downside when you put your dependence on Aishwarya. It impacts vivekam. Aishvarya gives temporary identity, comfort, and meaning. So the urge for moksha becomes weak or postponed. In fact, we say that if you go to Swarga Loka, because of the Aishwaryam that you enjoy, you are unable to pursue the path of moksha. You have to Kshine Punyam. After the Punya is all discharged, you will come back to Martya Loka. You will come back to this particular Loka and you will have to pursue your path again. That is the downside of Aishwaryam. So why has Bhagavan praised them? They reinforce each other. When pleasure increases, paired them. Why has Bhagavan paired them? They reinforce each other. When pleasure increases, desire for wealth increases. And when wealth increases, taste for pleasure also increases. So it becomes mutually very compatible with each other, taking you in that particular cycle. The mind, driven by desires and exposed to attractive but superficial teachings, becomes incapable of viveka, and it is trapped in the cycle of karma and rebirth. That is what Bhagavan is trying to put in this shloka. In Bhashyam, Shankaracharya says, those whose nature is full of desires, kamatmanaha, who are desire-centered, kamaparaha, and who consider heaven, Swarga, to be the highest goal, Swargaparaha, focus on Vedic speech, Vacham, that seems beautiful like a flowering tree, Pushpitam Vacham, from the previous shloka. These people praise ritualistic portions of the Vedas that promise a reward, leading to births and results of karma. Janma karma phalapradam, meaning they remain trapped in the cycle of rebirth. Their speech is full of descriptions of numerous rituals, kriya vishesha bahulam, aimed at gaining heaven, wealth, cattle, children, and pleasures. Swargam pashu putradi arthaha is the way that Shankaracharya puts it. All their activities are focused towards achieving pleasure, that is bhogam, and power, which is aishwaryam. Such people, and in fact, the word used is mudaha, are deluded. The deluded ones remain caught in the endless cycle of samsara. Samsare parivartante is the way that Shankaracharya puts it. Moving on to the shloka number 44. भोगैश्वर्यप्रसक्तानां तयापहृतचेतसां व्यवसायात्मिका बुद्धिः समाधौ न विधीयते. So this is the last shloka in this aspect. What are we talking about? The ones which are, or the words spoken by avipashchitaha, which mislead people who have kamatmanaha, whose heart is filled with desires. And the reason is a warning so that we can work our way out of the bondage that we have developed, or the attraction that we have developed towards going after bhogam, not towards experiencing. Bhagavan will later say in Karma Yoga, right, that such bhogam is the prasadam given by the devas. And we will talk about it as part of the Karma Yoga. But it is not, don't go after bhogam, try to become very serious, don't even smile. Right? That is not what is being said here. What is being said is, hey, don't get caught into the big pull, the attraction, the magnetic pull that this bhogam has. Now, what he says is, what is the result of it? Bhogaishvarya prasakthanam. Once you are attached to this bhogam and aishvaryam, taya, by such things, apahrita chetasam. Apahrita is taken away, basically stolen, seized. Chetas is the intellect. So apahrita chetasam, their mind is stolen away, or their intelligence is stolen away by the bhogaishvaryam. Vyavasayatmika buddhihi. Now, however, for one who has atmika vyavasaya in his mind, which is fixed, a determination towards the objective, samadhau, in good balance, a controlled mind, na vidhiyate, never takes place. In other words, here he concludes and connects it back to what he is expecting Arjuna or all of us to be. To say that, hey, don't get caught in this extreme powerful magnet called as Bhogam and Aishwaryam. Instead, become a Vyavasayatmika Buddhihi. Become one whose mind is fixed, focused, and is able to drive towards the objectives, which is again we categorize it as Kshetra Paripalanam and Dharma Rakshanam. This verse describes the final consequence. Bhogaishvaryam, Bhogam and Aishvaryam, Taya means those, contextually in those words, Yamimam Pushpitam Vacham, when you are being attracted, instead of moving voluntarily away. Now, this is the place where we ask the question, who is at fault? Is it the listener, or is it the one who is speaking? The way that we say is, it is the listener who is to be correcting himself. The person who is speaking, he is already avyavasayatmika buddhihi. Unless the person himself wants to come out of it, he cannot come out. But as the listeners who are getting carried away, who are better prospects, then those people are the ones this warning is towards. You submit to such words due to your own attachment towards the bhogam and aishwaryam. Apahrita chetasam, their chittam, their intelligence is stolen away. Not destroyed, but it is covered. We have seen this sun and the cloud. The thicker the cloud it is, the darker it becomes. The sun loses its ability. Does it mean the cloud is more powerful than the sun? No, the cloud has to go away. Once it goes away, you get the full light. So such listeners lose their ability to apply intelligence. Why is it that Bhagavan says, stolen away, apahrita chetasam? This is because we call it as anyonya ashrayam. The best example, again, in the Tamil culture is neyyukku donna. Means, they used to have a small cup-like thing made of leaf in which the clarified butter is poured before you eat. And if that ghee is not put, the donna, which is made of leaf, will fly away. If it is put, then it will hold the donnai in place. Now, what is holding what? Is the donnai holding the ghee or ghee holding the donnai? That is the aspect when we talk of anyonya ashrayam. That why stolen away? Because of the interdependency that they have. Avipaschita teachers influence. Desire-filled listeners absorb. So we also attribute this lack of effort from us to understand. Right? So we are not, or us to follow the path of truth. Their validation strengthens because we are not putting our effort to find the truth. We have become dependent and we are not putting our effort to find the truth, which will take us further and further away. And this will strengthen the desire. And this cycle feeds itself, each validating the other. The anyonya ashrayam is there. And the best way to put it is using apahrita chetasam. Na vyavasayatmika buddhihi samadhau vidhiyate. That is the next line. Such a person cannot get vyavasayatmika buddhi because the mind keeps branching outwards. It pursues multiplicity, cannot unify around a higher vision. Samadhi is a word that is used here. A very beautiful word which we will be analyzing. Samadhi is a mind that is not split, scattered, or hijacked, especially by desires. It speaks to the inner integration, the unification of the person, and it is not a position in trance or something. In movies and all, that is the way it is presented. Right? So samadhi is like he's putting his hand together and it has gone. No, that is not what it is. It is not a meditation posture. Samadhi means a mind that is not split or scattered. Samyak adhiyam is the basis for samadhi, that in which the mind abides steadily with clarity, with absolute certainty. So generally we have three divisions. I am the karta, I perform a karma, and I get a phala. This is our simple mind. That is the way that we see the world to be. Right? Naresh goes to work, puts in his effort, and he gets the money or the salary. So that is the way that we are seeing it. Now, what does karma yoga do? It integrates them into one orientation. I do what is right to the situation with a full awareness of everything that changes around me as an offering to the God. That is the gist of karma yoga. I will repeat it here because it is very important. I do that which is right. How is the right determined? Based on the situation. And when I am doing that which is right, I am in full awareness of everything that is changing around me. That is the next thing. So it is not like this is there and I know what this is and I'm doing it. While doing it, the things will change and I am fully aware of the changes that are happening around me. And what is the attitude that I carry when I am performing this task? I carry the attitude of my actions like being an offering made to the God. And that is the definition of Karma Yoga. The second aspect of Karma Yoga is when you perform an action, you will definitely get a result. There are two kinds. One is from a experience point of view. We don't have that because we are doing it as a service to God. But another is an output of the karma that we get. Right? That output of the karma, I take it as a prasadam from God. The reason why we say prasadam is, let us say in the house, my wife has made chakra pongal and I'm eating it and there is a hair in it or there is a stone in it and it comes in my mouth. I get angry, I shout at my wife. On the other hand, I go to the temple and they offer the same kind of a prasad, and I find the same kind of a thing. But my attitude towards taking the prasad will be very different. I'll silently put it away and have it. It all happens. Kind of a attitude it comes up. That is because the prasada buddhi is there in what I got. That prasada buddhi will be there in anything I get as a result of what I have performed. Not from a bhogam point of view, but as a prasadam. When this you do, it will transform fear into acceptance, pride into humility, and attachment into clarity. Samadhi is eka buddhihi, vyavasayatmika buddhihi, is the bottom line. Samadhi is the inner harmony in which the person, the action, and the purpose come into one alignment. The fragmentation disappears. And with that disappearance, there is a clarity that is born in you. That is the greatness of Karma Yoga. As you can see, Bhagavan has gone into Karma Yoga in this second line of this shloka. Right? But typically it will start in the next shloka, where he will introduce one very, very big concept before he jumps really into the Karma Yoga in 47. In our tradition, we make this important clarification. Why does Bhagavan mention Samadhi here? Not in Meditation Chapter 6, Dhyana Yoga. If you go into the Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, Samadhi is the Ashtanga, eighth anga. Bhagavan doesn't use the term Samadhi in the 6th chapter when we look into the Dhyana Yoga. Because Samadhi is not post-meditation achievement. In Yoga Sutra, there are traditions which teach Samadhi as post-meditation. Right? So if you go to the 8 angas, Dhyanam will come somewhere in the middle, but the Samadhi will be the last step. So they progressively take it. And Samadhi is sometimes seen as a result of meditation. But we clarify that Samadhi is not a post-meditation achievement. Samadhi is prerequisite for Karma Yoga. That is something that we emphasize. Unless you are able to unite yourself from within, Vyavasayatmika Buddhihi, to get into Karma Yoga will be very, very difficult. So, Karma Yoga thus becomes kind of a prerequisite for Jnana Yoga. And only through Jnana Yoga, Moksham Sambhavati. Right? But as we say repeatedly in the tradition, it is not one after the other. It is developing the ability for Karma Yoga and pursuing the Karma, Bhakti, and Jnana Yoga at the same time. Raja Yoga may or may not be pursued. That is what we say. And that is why it is called as Raja Yoga. Raja Yoga is the yoga, the Patanjali's Yoga Sutra can be classified under the Raja Yoga in our traditional definitions. How everyone defines is different. For our understanding, I am telling, this karma, bhakti, and jnanam should go hand in hand at all times. Without samadhi, the mind cannot make correct decisions. It cannot stay consistent. It cannot manage your own desires. Again, Sthita Prajna Lakshan, we will see a lot more. It cannot face failures. And it cannot stay aligned to dharma. You will always slip into adharma. The way that I have learned this is to say that this is an important lesson for all, especially for children. So let us look at that before we jump into Karma Yoga. Samadhi. It's a psychological stability required for Karma Yoga and Atma Jnana. Samadhi is voluntary, but it is not instantaneous. In other words, you could attain the state of samadhi, you can slip, and then again attain the state of samadhi and it could slip. You should be open to that. It is cultivated by repeated conscious alignment, abhyasam, vivekam, will, and karma yogam actually is required for the samadhi. It is again anyonya ashrayam we speak about. Right? See, they all go hand in hand for you to be in the state of that samadhi. Don't get carried away by the word. Don't get carried away by what the movies show samadhi to be. Be very focused in terms of how we are using it. Vyavasayatmika buddhi. A buddhi that is stable, that is fixed, that which is in full awareness. That is what we want. Right? That is what we want in our work. That is what we want in our life. That is what we want in our sports. Right? That attainment is achieved through this process, abhyasam, vivekam, and karma yogam. Remove the fragmentation through vivekam. That is the first step. Contemplate to realize that fragmentation, bahushaka buddhi, happens. Why? Due to too many desires, wanting to possess something as makuru dhanajana yavana garvam, that kind of an aspect. It becomes it just carries you away. Contradictory goals, wanting to do something. If you have something, it's the easiest ways to express this. Others too, right? Like I have this, so others too. Basically, contradictory goals are wanting to do something, and if you get it, you will want to get something else. Or while wanting to get this, you will want something else. And that what you want could be contradicting with what you want to have in the first place. That confusion, that, spin ball is going to be there, that you will experience. Imagined fears. Again, about fear, we will speak in the chapter 16, Devas Reem Sampath. But the fragmentation happens due to those fears that you have. External influences. This is the biggest hurdle that we have been speaking about. And we say that the Western education system that we practice falls into this category. Right from our birth, we are trained to go after. Right? You want to get higher grade. You want to follow the system of not knowing, but following, especially when I was teaching my children as they were growing up in their very early age, I was able to see that they were teaching less of maths and more of English. The questions are not about how to apply something that I have learned. It is about how you understand what is being given to you and react to it. That aspect of reaction inducing effort or teaching is a big weakness. This is arguable, but what we say is by the time they grow into a place where they can make their own decisions, a lot of damage has already been done. And the majority of the society is suffering from this. Right. And in this particular thing, the external influence today, I will definitely include the social media or even the media in general. The news that we are going after, for example, in those days, or the social media where you just open up and try to go through things which are meaningless and yet you are addicted. You cannot let go of it. Right? That is the external influence and lack of clear pramana. Now, this we attribute it to God. There are too many sources with conflicting base. Right? And unfortunately, that is the way in terms of the Hindu scriptures that it is. Right? At least with respect to other religions, you have a Bible. Though the interpretations of the Bible by different churches are very, very varying. But there is at least limited to one book. Right? Or maybe two. Right? Old Testament and New Testament, etc. Maybe two. But basically, it is having a limited source, but it is reinforcing the belief. Whereas in the Hindu culture or in the Vedantic culture or in the Sanatana Dharmic culture, the scriptures are just too many. And there may be some conflicting aspects itself. In Veda itself, there is conflicting thing. In Bhagavad Gita, there are second line and first line of a shloka where it is directly conflicting. Right. So where he says that everything is in me, but I am not in them, and everything is not in me. That is literal translation of that particular shloka. We will see it in Rajavidya Rajaguhya Yoga. But those contradictions are essential, but we must wade through them to find the truth. That is the objective. Not to take it as a praman, as a direction. Idam kuru, idam ma kuru. That is not the way that the Shastra must be read. The Shastra must be heard and understood in what it conveys about the intent. So that is very, very essential. When you develop this understanding, you can develop your vivekam, clarity about what matters. Focus should be to remove confusion, emotional turbulence, the inner conflicts. I know that today the organizations practice mindfulness in organizations. That mindfulness is very, very essential. You can develop that. Repeatedly returning to the mind and bring about that single orientation. This is called as abhyasam. Whenever the mind runs outwards, bring it back to the chosen orientation based on dharma, karma, yoga, Aishvarya, pranidhanam, etc. This is not forcing the mind, rather it is training the mind. Remember, this exercise is like learning to walk. No child is ever frustrated when an attempt fails. In fact, with the fall, it learns how to fall also. That is the beauty. Practicing an instrument. This is consciously observing what you play and realizing the mistake that you are making. Pariksha lokan karmachitan brahmano. Be very, very clear in terms of observing what things are happening. It can be equated to learning a language. You apply subtleties through rules. Here you learn the rules and apply them. Sometimes conflicting the traditional approach of the language. We can use that also. Like it happens in, I think, Three Idiots is what immediately that came to my mind, right? Where he says Mutra Visarjan kind of a stuff, So that is what it is. So it is applying the rules, even if in case it is colloquially not conventional and is not appropriate as well. But we learn the language through learning the rules and applying them. Like training a muscle, you learn limitations and push those limitations in a gentle way. These are the four main things that we talk about when we say repeatedly returning to the mind to a single orientation. You are now going to train your brain in this fashion, like how we learn to walk, how we practice an instrument, etc. So this is just given in the traditional example to say, hey, these are all the things that you can keep in mind. Replacing desire-driven behavior with deliberate behavior. Desire-driven is I act because I want something. Move to I do this because it is right. Shift your mind to thinking what is right and execute that. Now, slowly removing the doership in you. This is called kartritva abhimanam. Right? Basically, we take the assumption that I am the doer, I need to control this, I am responsible for the outcomes. And then you put, this may be seen as becoming responsible. It doesn't mean you are going to shy away from responsibility. You are going to redefine the term responsibility. The responsibility, if it is driven with the sense that I am the doer, that I am the controller, that I am responsible for the outcomes, is the one that you need to drop, because it generates fear, it generates stress, it develops ego, right? There is an internal agitation that it sparks. From there, move to I am the contributor. I am an enabler placed by God in the situation. The limitations I see are for other bodies to support. This is very essential, and this is essential even as a supreme leader, be it as a prime minister like Modi or something, right? This is a very, very important thing. If I take that I am the doer, then you will face a lot more difficulty in executing what you want than when you look at it as I am the contributor. I am the enabler, right? My role is to provide the direction. My role is to take the decision and help. I will perform the action of taking the decision and directing the staff, which is absolutely fine. That is a great leadership quality, but not as I am the doer, that I am responsible for the outcome. Now, this is not exhaustive, only indicative. An exercise to you will be to think of other such concepts, and maybe we can add it to this. So this is a very, very important one. As I said, this is not for Vedantic or old people. This is for the younger generation to know and develop and promote themselves. So from that point of view, this lesson is a very valuable one, I would say. And this is the one that has shaped me up a lot as well in my life. So I would say that this is an important, important thing. And if in case we can enrich it, it is even better. Going into the Bhashyam, Bhagavan says, for those people, Tesham, who are attached to enjoyment and power, bhoga Aishvarya prasakthanam, whose very mindset is pleasure must be enjoyed, power must be acquired, right? Bhoga kartavyam aishvaryam cha is the way that Acharya puts it, and who are deeply devoted only to enjoyment and wealth. Bhogeshwaryoho pranayavatam. That is basically devoted to the enjoyment. That pranami, right? That is the source of it. That is the base of it. Whose very self is absorbed in the desire. Tadatma bhutanam. Right? Their intellect gets carried away by the flowery Vedic speech. Taya kriya vishesha bahudaya vacha is the way that he puts it. Speech promoting countless rituals aimed at pleasure and wealth. As a result, their power of discrimination, viveka prajnanam, gets covered, getting that enveloped kind of stuff. They lose the ability to recognize the higher truth. Thus, their firm, steady buddhi, vyavasayatmika buddhi, whether for Sankhya, which is the path of Atmajnan, or yoga, the path which is driven in terms of action, does not get established in samadhi. Samadhau na vidiyate. Instead, their inner mind, antahkaranam buddhihi, falls into a wrong type of samadhi, namely an internal settled attitude of everything is meant for my enjoyment. Very beautiful analysis, Acharyas, right? Upabhogaya sarvam iti samadhi. So he says they do get into samadhi, but in the wrong sense, wherein they think that anything in the world is for my enjoyment. Hence, the real focused spiritual samadhi does not happen. Na vidiyate for them. Now he goes into the next shloka. Very nice one. Ya evam viveka buddhi rahitaha tesham kamatmanam. Those who are thus, meaning without discriminative intellect, who have lost the capacity to distinguish between the real Atman and the unreal, the Anatma, the pleasure or the rituals, and those very being is filled with desires, kamatmanam. Krishna is about to explain what happens to them. This sentence leads into the next part of teaching, which is Karma Yogam. But before he gets into Karma Yogam, he kind of goes into it, but in a very beautiful way. Right. In our tradition, the next shloka is considered to be one of the most important shloka. And I'm sure like Jyoti ji or Ravi or Hari Bhaiya, they would have known. I would have used that particular shloka so many times, even when going through Vishnu Sahasranama or even within Bhagavad Gita or even during the Brahma Sutra classes that we had. So this is going to be one of the most beautiful shloka, and that is where this discussion is leading Bhagavan into. Shloka number 45. Because I love to say the shloka, let me say the shloka, and we will continue our class at this point in the next week. Traigunya Vishaya Veda Nistraigunyo Bhavarjuna Nirdvandvo Nitya Sattvastaha Niryoga Kshemamatmavan. One of the most beautiful shlokas. But what it is, we will reserve it for our next week. Harihi Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnad Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat.